Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is Season 16, Episode 10. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Hi, and welcome to another Working From Home Meaningful Money Podcast. Hope that you're bearing up and staying safe in all the madness. Just like that, you've made it. You now stand at the brink of retirement, however it is that you've defined that. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about getting to this point, the home straight, and now we're here, about to step across the threshold into this next phase of life. What on earth do we do now? We're going to be talking about that today, just to round off the season. Afterwards, going to be talking about what's coming up over the next few weeks, introducing Season 17 very briefly, and also just some news about the full launch of Meaningful Academy, the Build Wealth phase. So stay tuned for that, and instructions on how you can get on the mailing list to be notified when that finally goes live. And we have a launch date finally, which is good. So before all that, remember, as ever, this podcast, even in these straitened times, comes to you with the help of my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been helping me out here for ages now, and I'm so grateful to them for doing so. So please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. Go check them out. Okay, this has been a great season, though I say it myself. It's been really, really well received by you, dear listeners. I've had more feedback and encouragement about this season, I think, than any before it. So it's obviously struck a chord. So thank you, first of all, to everybody who's emailed, left a podcast review, or tweeted me to say that they're enjoying this content. I really do appreciate the encouragement. But now we need to round things off. Ask some questions about the moment of making the leap. That's the title of today's episode. Making the leap into retirement. Okay? So remember, notes and links for today's show. It's the only link you need to remember. I usually at this point say, if you're out and about, this is the only link you need to remember. Well, if you're on your one form of exercise a day, this is the link you need to remember. meaningfulmoney.tv/HS10. That's for Home Straight. Episode 10. So meaningfulmoney.tv/HS10. Let's have a look at everything you need to know first. Okay, first thing we need to know is that this is a big deal, okay? Whether or not your retirement is a cliff edge where one day you're working full time and the next you're not, there is a point at which you begin the process, at least, of actually retiring. And I think it's really important, vital even, not to underestimate the significance of taking that step. I've walked through this process with countless clients over the years, and as they make the leap, the complex emotions within them as they transition to this next phase of their lives must not be underestimated. I'm sure that a large part of that is because, in no small measure, we define our place in society based on what we do. So if we're no longer doing that thing, or we're maybe starting to do less of it, then that might impact how we feel about our place in society. There can be a sense, no matter how erroneous it obviously is, that being retired means, that's it for our valuable contribution to society. But obviously that's garbage. But for some people at least, that will be nagging them a little bit. And so it's important, I think, just to acknowledge that. In fact, as with all things like this, the first step to overcoming them is to acknowledge these feelings, potentially negative ones. The weight of it all, what's next, where do I now sit in society? If we acknowledge those, even potentially entertain them consciously for a while at least, folding those feelings over in our minds and maybe just sort of gauging how we're impacted by them. If you do that, though, it's really important to apply some objectivity to things. Obviously, you've got much still to offer to the universe, whatever your circumstances. So acknowledging, I think, that retirement is a big deal means that you don't just pile into it thoughtlessly. Being intentional is a state of mind, not just of action. Hopefully, the planning that you've done in the run-up to this step will help you gain some perspective about whatever it is that the next step holds for you. So it's a big deal. Important to acknowledge that. Second thing we need to know is that life will change the plans that you've made. Okay? Over the past 10 weeks, I've laid down something of a process to follow to get everything in place for this great transition into retirement. Everything from fully understanding where your financial pots and plans are held, how they're invested, the mechanisms for drawing down money, to the importance of cash flow, particularly in the early years of retirement. But no matter how well prepared we are for this event, life inevitably throws something at us that we weren't expecting. I was chatting only this week with a client couple where the gentleman retired in December time, I think, and obviously he wasn't expecting COVID-19 to hit, see the value of his pension funds drop by 15 to 20%. Now, fortunately, because of the planning we've done, we've been able to show him that actually he's very well prepared for this. They've got plenty of cash to draw from so that they can allow their invested portion of their wealth to recover, and it will. But understandably, they were shaken. You make this leap based on all the planning you've done, and in this case, that planning turned out to be still entirely useful, but certainly nobody could have expected this eventuality. So preparation is the key. If we understand that our best laid plans are likely to change the second we actually step over the threshold, then actually we're a little bit less likely to be thrown for a loop when those plans inevitably have to change. Nothing stays the same. Nothing goes completely to plan. If we plan for the unexpected, then, if we expect it to show up, then we've planned for it as far as we can. Doesn't really sound very positive start, does it? It's a really big deal. We need to be sort of acknowledge that it's a big deal, and we need to be prepared for the unexpected. Not the cheeriest of starts. Perhaps you were expecting this episode to be all celebration and joy, but let's turn it around a little bit by looking now at what it is that you need to do. The first thing to do is to make good on the promises that you've made to yourself. Back a little bit in episode 1, but also in episode 2 of this season, we talked about refining the vision. Specifically, I asked you to think about what retirement looked like and then try to put some costs on your expected lifestyle so that you could plan accordingly. Building in some lump sum costs for things you wanted to buy or do, the things that you've always promised yourself you would when you had more time or when you retired. Well, now is the time to get those things done, right? So make those plans, scope out options for the camper van or boat of your dreams, book the big holiday, make the gifts to family that you said you wanted to make, do all those things. It's really important that you reward yourself and that you implement the stuff that you've been dreaming about for so long. So get on and do it. Make good on those promises that you've made to yourselves. Secondly, double check, make sure that everything is set up correctly. You've got some time on your hands now, to a greater or lesser extent, so make sure that everything is set up optimally as per what we've been talking about. Essentially run a final sweep on your financial affairs, make any tweaks as necessary as you come up with things that you think are not perfectly in place. Double check that your investment approach is optimal. Listen back to episode 8 for more on that. That episode was called Investing for Longevity. Make sure if you're going to be drawing down from your accumulated capital, that you've got some measure of a cash flow ladder planned out and implemented. Ensure that you've got enough cash on hand to cover your ad hoc expenses, as well as your general living costs for the first 2 years at least of drawing down. Whether that's literal cash in the bank or an element of your invested pots in pensions and ISAs, which are actually invested in cash within those pots. Make sure that when you do start drawing down, the money is in fact coming from the cash portion. Really important this. Make sure that your instructions with your platform or your pension and ISA providers are being correctly executed. I've seen this happen, and the last thing you'd want is for you to have set aside 2 years in cash, and then because of an error in communication between you and your platform, they're actually drawing the income you need from your invested portion. Don't really want to do that, okay? Make sure that your investments and pensions are doing what you've asked them to do. Third thing we need to do is to establish a rhythm of reviews. So you're going to need to keep an eye on things fairly closely in the early years of your retirement, but in due course things will find a level, they'll settle down. So as I mentioned last week, what you really don't want is for the management of your finances to just take over your life, right? So be sure to set some boundaries for when you're going to review things and keep things tidy and in their place. So I suggest that for the first couple of years at least, you set quarterly review dates and take stock of a couple of things each quarter. Firstly, how much you're spending relative to what you thought you were going to spend. And then in light of that, the size of your cash pile. If you're spending more than you think, you might need to reassess the size of the cash pot that you've left for yourself. You can keep an eye on how your investments are doing, but be wary of making unnecessary changes at this very early stage, okay, unless we need to realize more cash. Once a year, you can formally review things. Sit down, take into account performance of your investments, rebalance where necessary, move money down the cash flow ladder. And you should use that opportunity once a year also to plan your spending for the coming year. And you can do that in light of the previous year. Also, you may know that there is some big costs coming up in the year ahead, and you can reposition your pieces accordingly. The goal really is to make the management of your cash flow and portfolio as easy as possible so that it doesn't take up too much headspace. You're meant to be retired, for crying out loud. So we're meant to be enjoying life and not getting involved in too much in stuff we don't want to do. So I'm going to be refining all this in season 17. A little bit of a teaser there, and that's going to start in May. Number 4 that we need to do, monitor, keep an eye on your feelings, all right? As time goes on and you get used to this new normal, I think it's a good idea to keep half an eye on your emotional response to the change in circumstances. Are you feeling like you thought you would, or different? Are you enjoying retirement? Are you enduring it in its current form? Are you feeling like you want to make changes from how it's set up currently? You know, whether you choose to act on those feelings or just ride them through and power through the whatever it is you're feeling, that's up to you. But I think it's wise to be aware and intentional about your thought life, your emotional life, and your response to this massive change in your circumstances. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, don't forget to celebrate this momentous step into retirement. Take a holiday, crack open a bottle of Chateauneuf or Macallan or whatever. Do whatever it is that you want to do to celebrate. You've achieved a big thing, a great thing, financial security to live life entirely on your own terms. And as I said at the beginning, this is a big deal, and I think it's worthy of marking the occasion. Now, again, the mode of celebration is entirely up to you. Might be taking your family on a holiday. That's what my dad did when he retired. Just quietly raising a glass to yourself at home, whatever. But do mark the achievement in some way. I reckon you've earned that with everything that you've done for the last 30, 40 years to get to this place. So in the past 10 weeks, we've covered quite a lot of ground, actually, dealing with the specifics of positioning your pieces and your investment approach to this whole new paradigm of decumulation rather than accumulation. Along the way, we've got a little bit psychological too, talking about feelings and stuff, all very strange for a finance podcast, but important nonetheless. We've covered the mechanics of phased retirement, crucial, that is, for optimizing things to your unique circumstances. And as I said at the start, this season has really hit a nerve, and we're going to be turning the content into an ebook, which you'll be able to download from the season page, meaningfulmoney.tv/season 16, or meaningfulmoney.tv/the home straight, whichever one you prefer to remember. But that'll be happening in due course. So just wanted to sort of round things off, really. We've dealt with a lot of the technical stuff as we've gone along, but I wanted to just sort of mark the point at which you enter retirement. So here's a quick review before we start talking about what's going to be happening over the next few weeks. This is from Will Place, who says, I've been listening for about 2 years and have gone through the back catalogue. Amazing. I'm 40 and am investing via a personal pension. The investment reassurance and guidance has been very helpful, and I've been introduced to a number of other podcasts, the Property Podcast and Money to the Masses, among others. Both excellent choices. Thanks very much for the content. I have forced family members to listen to some of the more fundamental episodes. I wonder how you did that. Sort of kneel on the chest and put some headphones on there. At least one has accepted hearing a message from you that I failed to get across. This is the best source of general money advice I've found. Will Place, thank you so much for leaving that review. Really appreciate it. If you want to do the same, then just go to meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes if you are of an Apple persuasion. But if you're listening anywhere and that place where you're listening gives you the option to leave me a review, then please do so, because it just keeps the show near the top of the rankings and enables people to find out about it. Okay, next few weeks, obviously as one season finishes, we need to turn our minds to the next one. Probably that'll begin on the 6th of May, possibly the week after, but I'm thinking the 6th of May, which is only 3 weeks away. 4 weeks away, sorry. We've got 3 weeks of in-between episodes. Season 17 is going to look closely at retirement itself, so it logically follows from this season. And also we're going to be looking at some later life issues as part of that season, or stuff that we don't really want to address very often, but are important to do so. So I've got a couple of in-between episodes for you. I think you'll enjoy too, still lining those up, but I think they're going to be of value as well. So stay tuned for that. Right now, we are working frantically to get the build wealth phase of Meaningful Academy ready to launch on, hopefully, the 1st of May. That's the goal. So this is the phase of Meaningful Academy that deals comprehensively with the wealth building process. So we're talking about building an investment portfolio, goal setting and mindset, of course, planning which tax wrappers to use in what circumstances, how to find the best tax wrappers, the best platforms, and perhaps the sort of icing on the cake, if you like, is that this phase of Meaningful Academy offers access to something called Voyant Go, which is the best financial planning tool in the world, and it's particularly aimed at consumers, folks like yourself. So there's instructional videos on how to use it in there, but it's an amazing tool for putting your plans in place and seeing the impact of the decisions you make day to day. So that is the Build Wealth phase of Meaningful Academy. If you want to be in at the start and to get the deepest discount that there'll ever be on the completed academy, you need to be on the mailing list. So head over to meaningfulacademy.com, and at the top there is a banner which says I'm interested in the Build Wealth phase, and also I'm interested in the retirement planning phase, and that's still to come. That's phase 3. So you want to click the yellow button which says I'm interested in the Build Wealth phase, stick your name and email address in there, and we'll be in touch, and there'll be discount codes and stuff when we go live on the 1st of May. Okay, folks, that's it. Slightly different outlook, a bit more pleasant than last week's. This is my front room, and I think we've got it set up okay. Hopefully it sounds all right and I'm in focus and stuff. Otherwise, I'll just have to do all this again. But thank you so much for being here. Hope that you're staying safe and well in it all. Don't forget, notes and links are at the show notes, meaningfulmoney.tv/HS10. Thank you so much for all your feedback on this season. Hope you've enjoyed it. Glad you've enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you next week.